Elevate your dessert displays. Literally. I'll show you how to make a clever DIY cake and cupcake stand, perfect for showcasing everything from birthday cakes and wedding centerpieces to baby shower treats and graduation goodies. Even better, it folds flat when the party's over. Impress your guests at your next celebration with this versatile, space-saving project. Hey there, I'm Scott. Thank you for stopping by. I'm the owner of sawsonskates.com, where I share easy woodworking plans and space-saving workshop solutions. Teresa recently emailed me saying she and her granddaughter built 2 cupcake stands using plans from my site for her 50th anniversary celebration. They also modified the plan to hold the celebratory cake, and the shelf below gave them a spot to display gluten-free cupcakes. They kept the shelf spacing the same as the cupcake holders so they would line up perfectly. Their cake stand idea was absolutely brilliant. I was so impressed that I couldn't wait to share it so you can make one for your next wedding, anniversary, graduation, birthday, or baby shower. Using Teresa's measurements, I made a few minor design tweaks. Now I'm sharing my take on her fantastic idea. A stylish cake and cupcake stand that's perfect for any gathering and conveniently folds flat for easy storage when the party's over. I use pine from my local home improvement store to make my stand, but you could use almost any wood to make yours. To take your cake stand to the next level, consider using hardwoods like oak or walnut for the entire project. Or you can paint the frame, as I did, and use hardwood for the shelves to add a stylish contrast. Working with pocket hole screws on narrow workpieces requires special attention to prevent cracking. While coarse thread pocket hole screws are typically recommended for softwoods such as pine, I found smaller fine thread pocket hole screws are less likely to split the wood. Applying candle wax or even bar soap to the screws' threads reduces friction and helps them slide smoothly through the wood. Driving pocket hole screws generates an outward force that can cause the workpiece to split. Using a face clamp to secure the workpiece helps counteract this force, reducing the cracking risk. Finally, slowly driving the screws allows me to listen for any signs of stress and stop before a crack occurs. I forgot to follow one of my tips, using face clamps to control the outward force. Luckily, none of my workpieces cracked while I was driving the pocket hole screws. For a polished look, I filled the pocket holes with pocket hole plugs. You can use store-bought plugs or make your own. I'll leave a link for making your own in the description box below. I sanded the plugs using my random orbit sander and 100 grit sandpaper until they were flush with the frame's face. To install the hinges, I placed the frame side by side and used a clamp to stabilize them. I love these miniature hinges. The bag comes with a bunch, so I have plenty left over for future projects, which is always a plus. I've used larger hinges for my folding cupcake stand, but I have to say, I really prefer the smaller scale of these little ones. I've also used them on my rustic-style key cabinet and rustic bread box. They're definitely on the lighter side, but for projects like this that only get occasional use, they're just perfect. I use this painter's tape trick all the time. It makes a quick and easy depth stop for drill bits. Here's another tip. I kept the hinges attached while painting, making sure to coat all surfaces except the hinged edges. Once the main areas dried, I took off the hinges, painted the remaining spots, and then reattached them. This approach felt like the easiest way to tackle the frames. I used my friend Colleen's recipe to create a rustic-style paint finish. It's budget-friendly and a great way to use up all the leftover paint I have lying around. I started by mixing a couple of tablespoons of water with some plaster of Paris, then stirred in about half a cup of latex paint. The result? A beautifully rustic, textured finish that gave the frames just the look I was going for. Just a little tip when applying a second coat. Be sure to give the mixture a good stir because the plaster of Paris tends to settle at the bottom. Teresa used 1x8 boards for her shelves. One downside of using wider boards, like a 1x8, is their tendency to cup when the wood curves across its width, forming a concave shape similar to a smile or frown. Narrow boards are less likely to cup, so I built my shelves by gluing 3 smaller boards together. Both methods work well. A 1x8 board saves time since there's no need for gluing, but it's more prone to cupping. Using narrower boards reduces the risk of noticeable cupping, but it does add extra time to your build. I kept my stand pretty simple, but there are so many ways you can customize yours to match your style or event theme. If you want to add a more elegant touch, consider using a router to create decorative edges on the shelves and cake plate. This small detail can make a big impact, giving your stand a polished, upscale look. You can use carbon paper to transfer the pattern by placing it between the template and the wood, dark side down, and then tracing the lines with a pen or pencil. But for an easier and more precise transfer, I like to prep my templates a little differently. I attach them to a manila folder using spray adhesive. I love this method because the folder's edge creates a nice little lip for the pencil to follow, making tracing way more accurate. One of my followers didn't have a manila folder on hand, so they used a cereal box instead. Such a brilliant idea. It works just as well and is a great way to repurpose materials you already have. I made the cake plate following the same method as the shelves, cutting 2 boards to length and applying glue to form a panel. If one side of your board is more visually appealing, place the template on the opposite side where you'll attach the legs. Want to know my secret for perfect curves? I cut just outside the pencil line, then sand to remove the saw marks and refine the shape. A disc sander is a fantastic tool for quickly shaping and smoothing those outer curves. But if you don't have one, no worries. Good old-fashioned sandpaper will do the trick. It'll just take a little extra time and patience. Every time I show this setup in a video, I get tons of questions about it. This workbench is the Craig Mobile Project Center, and honestly, it's amazing. It's not just a workbench, it's an assembly table, a clamping station, a sawhorse, and it even folds flat for easy storage. Unfortunately, Craig has discontinued it, which is a real shame because it's such a versatile piece. The clamp I'm using is a Craig bench clamp, which fits right into the track on the bench, super handy for holding projects in place. I used my drill press to make the holes for the legs, but you can use a handheld one instead. Just keep in mind the holes may not be as precise. I made the legs using a wooden closet rod. While your drill press is set up, I recommend drilling a hole in a piece of scrap wood and bringing it with you when buying the rod to ensure the best fit. I had 2 scrap pieces of closet rod in my shop. One fit snugly, while the other was too large. I used a sanding block to bevel one end of the leg, the part that rests on the table, to give it a more finished look. If you're having trouble getting the legs to fit into the holes, try beveling the other end as well. Lightly sanding the sides of the legs can also help them slide in more easily. For the glue up, I used a silicone brush to apply glue around the edges of the holes. But you don't need anything fancy. An inexpensive artist brush or even your finger works just fine. Just be sure to coat the edges well, since that's where you'll get the strongest hold. Once the legs are installed, make sure they're square to the cake plate to prevent wobbling. After that, place the cake plate on a flat surface to check if it's level. If it's a little off, don't worry. You can gently tap the longer legs with a hammer or lightly sand them using a sanding block. Another trick is to place a piece of sandpaper on your workbench and move the leg back and forth on it until everything sits evenly. For the finishing touches, I painted the frame and applied 3 coats of a matte sheen polyurethane alternative to the shelves for a smooth, durable finish. Teresa took it a step further by adding finishing nail pegs to the cake plate's legs, holding it in place on the top board. She said, "It lifts off easily. The holes in the board are hardly noticeable, and the other side has no holes." As an alternative, I also considered using double-sided tape on the shelves and cake stand to keep everything securely in place. A huge thank you to Teresa for sharing her brilliant idea. This cake and cupcake stand is a versatile, space-saving solution that adds a special touch to weddings, anniversaries, birthdays, and more. And the best part? It folds flat for easy storage once the party's over. To get your copy of the cake stand plan or any of the plans I mentioned in this video, please visit my site sawsonskates.com using the links in the description box below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it the thumbs up. It's one of the best ways to support my building plans.